Good morning and welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live, and if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. With the page that you are currently watching on mute, simply click on that link to join the show and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are only a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you will be ejected, but you will be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. With that, I'm going to transition across to my photographs and invite anybody who is currently in the live stream to please share the show on social media while I do the same. Once again, if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Looks as though we have our first guests already. We are joined by Sleeping Warrior. I'll just check I can hear you okay. Maybe, maybe not. Just give us a shout, Sleeping Warrior, when you're ready. I'm just sharing the show on Skype and Twitter and such. I've just finished sharing the show on Facebook, Skype and Twitter, and once more I would encourage anybody who is in the live show to please also share the show on social media. I'll run through my links because we have been joined by our first guest, Sleeping Warrior, and I'll give him an introduction as soon as he's finished fiddling with his mic and all that sort of good stuff. So if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a link to Super Chat that runs alongside the show while it is live, and if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. With your watch page on mute, simply click on that link to join the show and express your views on the shape of the Earth. The only rules are please do not swear, and if you are ejected for swearing, please do not try to rejoin the show using sock accounts. If you've not done so already, please share the show and subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and yeah, hopefully with that I'll get to actually hear from Sleeping Warrior. Can you hear me, Anthony? Maybe not. Might just be a good opportunity for me to shout out some of the chat while we're... Oh no, there we go. Can you say another hello? Why have I got no sound from you? I think the audience might be able to hear you, but I can't, so I'll figure that out while you're chatting away. You feel free.
I'll just text you in the side box. I can hear you. Hopefully you'll get that message. I'm kind of hoping that we carry on from last night's chat with Soundly, because Soundly came in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and obviously it got wound up. We then went to bed because it was that time of the day for England. But if Soundly's out there, somebody put up a flag and see if we can get him in. Let's have the conversation while it's at the beginning of the hangout and there's nobody else in. And hopefully the likes of PMARS and Grim V, they're all in bed, hopefully. So hopefully we'll get a conversation without any weird stuff going on. In any event, we'll wait and see whether we can get hold of him. Oh, and by the way, I noticed that Brenda has done it twice now. She's presented evidence that is intentionally deceiving, and I'm sure she's aware there is no curvature at 30,000 feet. She knows this, yet claimed that there was the other day. And she also presented the Pontchartrain stuff, claiming that it was debunked. And when you read the article, it clearly states that it was inconclusive. That's the second time Brenda's done that. So for the record, let's just let the record show that Brenda's done it twice.
Can you just say something, Anthony, just to check I am actually hearing you now?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Perfect. Sorry about that.
Just do a mic check in the group. Can the group chat hear me? Because they were saying it was very, very quiet.
Yeah, I just got you turned down on my desk. I couldn't figure out. At the end of the show, I turn everyone right down to just say goodbye, and I just forgot to turn it back up again. It was something very simple. So, yeah, but they can hear you now. It's all going out.
That's all right. The only reason I'm on is because last night was quite a heated finale. Soundly came in the last 2 or 3 minutes, and obviously the show stopped. And I'm hoping to carry that on whilst the rest of the Americans tend to be asleep. Even right. PMARS has to sleep. So, but I also wanted someone to literally acknowledge the fact that Brenda has twice presented evidence that was blatantly wrong. She's twice now presented evidence that's not acceptable. She's showed that there was curvature on the horizon at 30,000 feet, and we all know that that's not true. And she's also presented evidence yesterday that claimed to be a debunk of Soundly's Pontchartrain stuff. But when you actually read the article, it describes it as inconclusive either way because it wasn't clear enough. Yet Brenda presented it as a debunk. So that's the second time Brenda's done that. I don't accept that that's done accidentally. If she does it a third time,
I can give you a third time. I can give you a third time. So she presented an evidence saying that it was a demonstration of a compass going over the North Pole and changing direction as it did so. So I was like, oh, wow, that sounds really cool. So I played it immediately without checking it. And then as they were chatting over the top of the video, I was paying very close attention to what he was doing. And what the guy actually did was dropped a drop of ferrofluid and then moved the compass over the ferrofluid. And of course, it changed direction, as you would expect. And I was like, what are you doing? This isn't a guy going over the North Pole at all. What a complete load of nonsense. And then when she did present one that was at the North Pole, the guy, sort of danced around in the circle round where they alleged to be the magnetic North Pole. And then he sort of moved the compass around and the compass moved a bit and it was totally inconclusive. Showed, couldn't draw any conclusions from it.
Bye.
Just hang on one sec.
Yeah, I did. I must admit, I jumped down her neck for that.
Sorry. The other thing that she showed was that the compass was reacting to the nails on the board, and she was claiming that was to do with the North Pole as well. And he was clearly showing it being reacting to the nails. Obviously, that didn't turn out to be true, did it? That's not what she was claiming it was showing. So, I mean, there comes a point where you have to ask the question: is it acceptable for people intentionally not to represent the truth the way they're telling it is? Because that's the third time she's done it.
Yeah, Tim Osmond did it as well. So he said he was talking about Aries' failure. And he was like, well, it was a failure. And it was like, yeah, failed to prove the Earth was spinning.
And obviously, we both know that Tim Osmond, intentionally or otherwise, he knows that this stuff's not right. So he's leading a conversation that he knows is fallacious. Yeah, so we have to ask, is it acceptable that this goes on? And if it's not, how do we deal with it?
That's the thing he did with you yesterday. It's like, when it suits him, he'll take NASA as evidence. And it's like, hang on, what is this?
Yeah, and the problem with that
Hold
I
on
have
one
is
second,
that
Anthony. We've been joined by non-schooling. Can you just say a quick hello?
Hello.
Good to have you here.
Good to be here.
Coming through nice and clear. I might go on mute now because at least you two can chat when you get a chance.
well,
Okie dokie.
I just wanted to close on the Tim comment. The Tim comment was, is Tim, I mean, me and Nathan both know that Tim knows that there is evidence contrary to what he says, but he's influencing people that are on the fence that are in chat. Now, there's a lot of people in chat that are one side or the other, and we know which side each people's on. But we also know that there's people that are new to the chat, and that's one of the reasons why I come in, because I listen to the people like Tim, for example, or Jeremy, claiming that the Earth is obviously spherical because of the preponderance of evidence. Yet they both know that there is evidence out there that shows that there's not the curvature that they claim that there is, yet still push it anyway. So people that are on the fence that don't really know either way are hearing Jeremy talk like this, etc., Jeremy and co. And you and I both know that they're literally steering the conversation towards their narrative. But the reality is there is evidence that's contrary to their opinion. And I wonder whether, I don't know, is it acceptable to present evidence that you know is fallacious? I mean, these people are not stupid. Go on, School.
I hear you, man. They're not stupid, and it's just to me it comes back to this like question of doubt. I can't say that I'm a flat earther. I can't say I've like gone and proved anything. You could call me on the fence, maybe, but when I think about it, how bad the ball has been popped. It's just like the flat earthers are winning in that regard. Like they popped the ball, so it's all damage control, and they just can't handle the doubt. Like you got some doubt, and they're like, no, you can't have any doubt. Like, sorry, man.
And the other thing that goes from that is if I step out of a conversation, it's either because I've been sniped or it's because I'm literally I'm not prepared to talk to certain people if I get spoke to a certain way. We're all human at the end of the day, and if it becomes too ad hom, then I'm out of it. It's that simple. But that doesn't mean I'm running. I will stand against any baller that's telling me anything, and I'll take all of them on because they can't get past I mean, they rely on Pontchartrain, yet there is clear evidence out there that shows that Pontchartrain doesn't do that with other people. So it's like, well, if other people are getting it flat and he's getting it bendy, then what's going on here? Now, when you look into
yeah, man.
And when you look into his bendy Pontchartrain stuff, and it was validated or it was supported by Cara Dian's model that was matching what he saw, then I put that comparison into the Blackpool Tower observation at 30 miles, and I see it fundamentally flat. But if it was to carry on from Cara's overlay, then I shouldn't be seeing anything like what I'm seeing. So unless it's a complete optical representation of weirdness, refraction or whatever. I mean, the other thing with refraction, of course, is that if it's to do with the pressures and the temperatures and all that, shouldn't refraction also bend up the other way when you're on the receiving end of it? You never ever see that though, do you? So it's like, what's going on here?
Yeah, I feel you about the attacks and stuff. I mean, the way they get real defensive and start attacking people, I mean, it's not doing any good for their case. And another thing you hear real early on is like, oh, these flat earthers are so dumb or something. And it's like when you start listening to some of them, like, actually, you know what? Some of these guys are actually pretty bright. So maybe you better roll back on that one. It's like these Globers are just so stubborn. I could almost like, meet them halfway a little bit if they just would like, I don't know, just roll back a few of the really, bad arguments, like the ship's going over the horizon, or it's just like, come on, man. Like that's like one of the worst. I just feel like it's like a chess game with them, like when you make a move, when a move in chess is made, there's no taking it back. But like this isn't that, they're just, I don't know.
But not just that though, with the boats going over the horizon, Tim knows that there is counter arguments to that because he knows that the water concertina is up in front of the boat when the tide's coming in. He knows that, yet he'll still push that boats go over the horizon. So the only way that can possibly be illustrating the truth in terms of whatever's going on there is Tim's literally influencing the people that are on the fence. So it's like,
and there are so many people on the fence, and a lot of people are even afraid to even speak up about this, and it's just like there's a lot of people listening, and they act like, oh, this is just like a little fringe echo chamber. Like No, I think that there's a lot of people who have their ear on this, and they're really curious to see how it plays out. And a lot of people don't have the time to get into debates or to spend hours looking into it. They're just going to kind of like go with the flow.
Yeah. I wish somebody with a P900 could go over there and validate his work, because if he seems to get it every single time he goes, the problem is there are other people that don't get it. So I don't know whether he's deliberately picking a time when he knows it'll do it, or whether he's manipulating it in some way, or I don't know. But the fact is, there is evidence that exists that doesn't do what Soundly says it does. So I really want to know what's causing it, if it's real. If somebody goes there with a P900 and it's flat as a pancake and it happens to be that way the first time he turns up, the chances are it'll be flat as a pancake the second time and the third time and the fourth time. Because I've done my own observations. I know that when I go to a particular point to see a particular thing, if I can see it because the weather's kind enough, it's going to be in the same place. It's not going to look any different. It's going to look exactly the same. Get your P900 out, zoom right in on it, and you can see the same stuff. So
We've
for
been
me, I
joined
find that
by
it's difficult
Free-Minded.
to accept.
Sorry to interrupt you, Anthony. Just say a quick hello to Free-Minded.
Yo, free.
What's up, fellas? What's going on, Riley?
Good. And just chatting about or trying to carry on the debate from last night when Soundly came in right in the last 10 minutes or so.
Right.
I'm hoping to get him in so we can carry on so that it's we can address the Pontchartrain stuff. Because what he'll do, the other thing to say about Soundly is that he will then say, well, what other videos has the other guy got? Well, when we do that to Soundly, we know that he's got other videos on the eclipse. And now let the records show, as a matter of fact, that Soundly said he did not take raw images at the time because his SD card was not very big. I mean, he's got £1,000 camera and he only had a small SD card in it, which I find difficult to believe in any event. But he said he didn't take any raw photos because his SD card was quite small. Yet last week I was presented evidence from Soundly that he actually did take CR2 images from the eclipse, despite telling everybody that he didn't. So on the one hand, he's saying he didn't have evidence, and now a month down the line, he's saying he did. So I mean, how is that credible? You can't claim one thing and then flip flop and then claim the opposite because you've now got new evidence. It's like
seems kind of shady.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if I said that. Imagine if I said no, it was blue, and then a month later I said actually it really was red. Can you imagine? They'd go mad.
I want to say another thing too about these guys like to bring in the stars and all that, and I wonder if they actually know that the people who are there getting their information from are actually debating on this right now about the stars. When they took that, I forgot what year it was, but they took that cosmic picture of the what is it? The background radiation or something like that.
Yeah.
And it came out that they have evidence of the stars are in the universe is spinning around us.
Yeah. Well, that's
have y'all heard about that?
Yeah, you're going back to the likes of the Sagnac experiment and the Michelson-Morley experiment, right? That they were the evidence that shows that it's the stars and the ether that moves around us. It's not us that's moving around it. Is that what you're talking about?
Well, no, I thought this was a couple of years ago when they took the picture, the cosmic background picture.
Well, that the Hadron Kaleidoscope thing or whatever it is, that thing that's under the ground in Central Europe somewhere. They claim that the universe has got a symmetry to it, and it shouldn't happen if it was an explosion. They reckon they've been doing testing to see whether it was on. Bob cited it on Globebusters last week.
Okay, I'm going to look into that.
Sorry to interrupt. I think you're talking at cross purposes. So I think Free-Minded's talking about the picture of the background radiation that's supposed to be the furthest thing we can see, and I think it was Hubble that took those shots, and they look like yellow and red dots in an oval. Is that what you're talking about, Free-Minded?
Right. Yeah.
We've been joined by sorry. One more thing. We've been joined by Multi Tom Tom, just so I can go on mute and not come back and interrupt you again. How are you doing, Tom Tom?
Hello, Nathan. Hello, guys. How are you doing?
Good to have you here. Thanks for being here.
Doing good, man. I was listening to your show with GeoStreamer the other day. There was quite a good conversation there. He's quite a good GeoStreamer for a ball earther. He's quite fair in terms of letting people speak. And he comes back with stuff, and it's quite interesting to see the stuff he came back with. I didn't agree with all the stuff he came back to you with, but it was quite good. So it was good to see you going in there, because not many flat earthers go into ball earthers chats, but he's one that I would encourage for flat earthers to go and chat to, because he does know his stuff. He knows the model anyway.
Well, thing is, I think he's studying chemistry, so I think it's like a different branch. That is, I also think he's been fed data by the others, like Red's Rhetoric, Sean Hufford, that kind of people. You know, the graphs he was showing.
Yeah.
Reds do similar things, you know, on the like Photoshop and all that, graphs and things, you know. So I think you know, they help him with that kind of you know, software and things like that. But I just want to quickly say, guys, you're talking about stars. That's why I came on, right? These ballers, right, when they talk about angles and geometry and distance and all that, you know, they don't know that the distances were calculated incorrectly. You know, if you research how they measured the distance to Mars and to the sun, it's all guesswork. You know, it's all false. What they got the distance to those bodies were. Like, for example, when they measured the distance to Mars, now it was Halley in 1729. Edmund Halley, he was the astronomer royal. He took the baseline, right? He took a measurement in the evening, shed, and then he assumed that the Earth was moving, you know, around the sun, and he thought he'll wait 12 hours and take another measurement. That's what he did. Like in the morning, 12 hours later, he took another measurement, but you know, thinking that he'll be miles away, and use that as the baseline to triangulate the distance to Mars, you know. And actually, you know, we know that the Earth is stationary. So, you know, to begin with, like, he got the baseline wrong for the triangulation. So it was just complete guess, you know. And similarly, the distance to the sun. What they did was the transit of Venus, and they send people out all over the Earth, but you know, they got the positions wrong. You know, like when you research it, one guy, you know, he wouldn't have been able to see it because like it would have been below the horizon. So you know, they use faulty data, and plus, like, you know, you have to be as further apart as possible. Not only that, there's no way you can get a baseline to, you know, to get a distance of like 93 million miles. You know, that's impossible. So these guys, you know, these guys rabbit on about geometry and angles and whatever. It's all wrong. You know, it's all false.
I mean, basically what you can say is you can conclude, or you can simplify what you've just said by saying you can only tell the difference to the sun or the moon if you know its size, but you can only tell its size if you know its distance. And given that we know neither, then we don't know what the distance to the sun and the moon is. What's interesting about the moon, particularly if you look in the high altitude footage of the sun and the moon, when they're spinning around and you see the sun and the moon, when we see the moon, it's generally about the same kind of size. We identify it as the moon based on its obvious size, and it's you know, in your mind, you know that you've seen it before, around about the same kind of size. But when you go up there, it seems to be very small, very small.
Yep. I noticed that too.
Yeah. So if they base the distance to the moon based on terrestrial observations at low altitude, then obviously the size is going to be different. If they do it at high altitude, the size is going to be a lot smaller. So depending on where you are when you do your trigonometry or your geometry or whatever mathematics that you want to use, you're going to get different results based on its size changing, based on the density of the air that we're in. That makes it a problem because we don't know how big the moon actually is. So and therefore you can't tell how far it is. But it's the same for the sun. It's the same for all of the planets. But wasn't it yesterday that they were talking about Aries failure? Wasn't it Tim? Yeah, it was Tim. It was Tim. Yeah, Tim last night was talking about Aries failure. What the issue with the Aries failure thing is that they always forget to include the one piece right at the very end. Aries ran his experiment in 1871, and he was testing to see what moved. Was it the ether that moved around us, or was it us that moved underneath the ether? And obviously, he came back with the conclusion that it was the ether that spins around us. Now, that was in 1871. So a little bit further forward, Michelson and Morley in 1887 they did an experiment, and basically their drift that they observed was classed as a null result because the drift could be explained by other things. It wasn't enough drift to acknowledge anything. In other words, we're stationary. This went on by numerous different people. There was Morley conducted a number of experiments in 1902 and 1904. But then it goes on a little bit more in time to where we end up with the introduction of Albert Einstein in 1905. And this is the bit that ballers never tell us. They never tell us that Albert Einstein came in early 1900s, which was after the main experiments, the Michelson-Morley and the Sagnac ones. But in 1913, what George Sagnac did, one of his experiments, and from it resulted the Sagnac effect. And essentially, the ether is something that's really there, but general relativity discredited it because he explained it in general relativity. So if you're an Albert Einstein fan, you'll accept that the Sagnac effect was evidence of general relativity. But then you go back to the very beginning, to Aristotle, and Aristotle acknowledged in, like, I don't know, the 3rd century or the 4th century before Christ, he describes the ether itself. And he says the ether is basically an element that's lighter than the earth in which we live, that encases all of the celestial bodies. So it's like above the hydrogen, it's above the nitrogen. It's a lighter element than what we describe in the periodic table, and that was back before Christ. So it's clearly the reality is the chronology is the ether is something that's really there. Now, there was a guy in yesterday, the guy with the blue face, Rolf. He was asking about the gyroscopes, and he was talking about apparent drift and mechanical drift. And I'm not going to go into it too much because it's long to explain. But what he was describing was the effect of the ether on the gyroscope. The amount of drift that the gyroscope shows is affected by and caused by the ether. Now, if you're a ball earther, you don't accept that ether exists because they class it as a pre-assumption. You're pre-assuming something exists. Well, all the evidence shows that it does exist, but they don't tell us that.
What didn't some happen during the eclipse that
which is
like gyros,
which is the Elias effect?
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Elias effect. And what he's seeing, and he doesn't realize it, and he won't accept it or acknowledge it, he's actually seeing the effect of the ether on the gyroscope. And he's asking the question, how does the gyroscope distinguish between mechanical drift and apparent drift? And the answer, of course, is it doesn't. But what you're observing there is the effect of the ether on the gyroscope. And we know that's the case because if you were to run the experiment during an eclipse, we know that we have the Elias effect. So I was trying to get on to speak to him, to catch up with him about it. And he came back on the following day, but I was out driving at the time. But the answer, that is the answer. The question that he asked was, how can this be explained? How does it distinguish between mechanical drift and apparent drift? And the answer is, the explanation is you are observing the effect of the ether on a gyroscope. The ether affects the gyroscope in the same way that it affects the pendulum.
Well, perfect timing. We've been joined by Huey.
There you go.
If I can just say a quick hello to Huey, just make sure his sound's all working, and then
Nathan Riley.
Yes.
It's the Large Hadron Collider, not the kaleidoscope.
Well, you know what I mean.
Yeah, secondly, it's the Sagnac effect, not the Sagnac.
Sagnac effect. Well, it depends on whether you want to pronounce it in French.
Yeah, you know, like cognac. We don't call it cognac. We call it cognac, right?
Well, it depends. David Ginola. Depends on how you want to pronounce it.
Anyway, it's Sagnac. But secondly, my question is, if the pendulous vane correction system can correct for mechanical drift, how can it not correct for apparent drift? How does it know the difference? That's the question.
Yeah, but wasn't the question you were asking the other day, how did it distinguish between the two?
Yeah.
But that's the question that you've just asked isn't the same, right? That's a different question.
Same question.
Well, obviously the gyroscope doesn't distinguish between the two different drifts.
Right. It doesn't.
No. How would it?
That's my question, because here's what's happened. The flat Earth gyroscope argument has evolved because, first of all, they said it's impossible for the gyroscope to maintain a reliable reference to the natural horizon. and they didn't understand about how correction worked. Now, recently, there's a flat earther called John Savage.
Yes.
He's got a whole blog on this, and he goes into great detail about how pendulous vane correction works. And his conclusion is, but it doesn't work on apparent drift. It only works from but he doesn't say why. That's my question. What's the difference?
I mean, to be honest, Anthony, I think we fall into their traps. I mean, it's pointless talking about gyroscopes, pendulums, and bloody. We don't get anywhere talking about these bloody things. They don't prove fuck all. They're just mechanical things that spins around. We just go round and round in circles talking about these bloody things. It's a trap set by these balls.
Sorry to interrupt you guys.
Talk about it endlessly.
I want Riley's.
I was going to say, Huey, I'll just get this across the board for you, Huey. Huey's on his own. There are 4 other flat earthers here, so you must let him speak.
So do you understand the clarification now, Riley?
Yeah. So let me just run it by me. So what you're saying is that he's concluded that the gyroscope doesn't account for mechanical, but doesn't account for apparent drift. Is that what you're saying?
The two. Yeah, that's my question. How the hell does the gyroscope know the difference between mechanical and apparent drift?
I don't think it does, but I thought the way I understood your question was that the apparent drift, how could it be explained? Is that not what the...
No. You know what apparent drift is?
Yes, it's the slight movement when you leave it in a state of... When it's not moving, it will wander slightly whilst it's not moving, and it shouldn't do.
No, apparent drift is where, say you spin the thing up at the North Pole, right? It's going to be perpendicular in that frame of reference. And if you travel on a curved object, say you're at the North Pole, by the time you get to the equator, the thing will be going sideways.
Correct.
It will still be upright in the frame of reference where it was started from, which is the North Pole. So there's a 90-degree difference. It'll be going sideways. That's apparent drift. Mechanical drift is when the bearings and the mechanics of the device introduce friction, and so they will drift because of that. That's mechanical drift. 2 types. And what John Savage is saying is, he goes into great detail. It's a very good blog, actually. It's got diagrams in there. It's very good. He said, here's pendulous vane correction. Here's how it works. And his conclusion is, yes, but it doesn't work for apparent drift. And he doesn't make any argument. He just makes that statement. So I'd like to know, and Wolfie would like to know as well, because this has come up in Wolfie's channel regarding his gyroscope demonstration, where he demonstrates correction of a pendulous vane gyro.
Well, I know this sounds like an obvious question, and I don't mean to be patronizing or whatever, but have you spoke to him? Have you asked him about it?
Who? John Savage?
Yeah.
No, you can't. If you try and put a post on his blog, he rejects it. He has to approve anything that goes in. Wolfie's tried several times to get it clarified, and you can't talk to the guy. He won't respond to you when you ask him those questions.
I can't criticize that because I do the same thing. I mean, I will respond to people, but
all I was doing was I was putting my question out there. I didn't expect anyone in the Hangouts to know, unless you're familiar with John Savage's blog.
No, I'm not familiar.
Other people have read this blog. Other flat earthers are going into Wolfie's channel now and saying, yeah, but it doesn't correct for apparent drift. And the question is, why? We don't know. So Wolfie has attempted 3 times to post something on John Savage's blog, and he ignores it. He won't approve it for display. But that's all I was saying. That was my question. I just wondered if anyone at the time knew about this and could answer that question. And if not, could somebody look into it and answer it, because it's just baffling to me.
Oh, well, obviously, a gyroscope's not going to know the difference between apparent drift over mechanical drift.
I agree with you. That's what I think. So I'm just baffled by why he thinks it would know the difference.
Well, why don't you ask? I know this sounds crazy, but why don't you ask Bob at Globebusters to look into it? Because I think Bob would take your time if you went to him.
Maybe. I don't know if Bob will talk to me, but I'll tell you what I can do for you, Riley. Let me see if I can quickly find his blog so you can read it for yourself, eh? Just give me a second.
Is the blog just all text, or is it showing videos and stuff of what he's describing?
Not in this article. There's diagrams.
Sure. I mean, I'll have a read of it, but the way I understand mechanical drift is that the gyroscope doesn't mechanical drift is so small and insignificant that when it's got one of these roller bearing, a ball bearing rotation point, the mechanical drift overpowers it to the point that the friction on the bearing is virtually zero, and we know that because
apparent drift will be very slow and gradual. Also, that's not going to be dramatic either. It's going to be a very gradual drift over time. Hang on, I found this blog now. I'm just looking for the article. Just give me a second, please.
Sure. Ebbing Tide, is this a male-dominated panel? No, you can join.
Okay, Anthony, there's the blog. Here's a link in the group chat. Have a read of it yourself and see if you can understand why he's making the claim he's making there, because it's totally unsupported.
Could you just show me whereabouts in the article the claim is, that's just so I can focus on it?
Well, just scroll to the end and read his conclusion, and that's where the claim is made. But if you read the whole thing, it does explain how pendulous vane gyroscope's correct for drift. And then he just at the end says, but it doesn't correct for hang on, let me find it. You should read the whole thing. It's not that long a read, actually.
No, I'm thinking that I might read it aloud, if Nathan would be all right with that.
The pendulous vanes have their uses and weaknesses, but one task they cannot perform is the mythical correction for non-existent curvature of the Earth.
Yes.
That's his argument. He doesn't say why. That's it. That's all it says.
I'm just looking for that bit.
Quite a detailed explanation of how pendulous vane correction works.
Which paragraph is that? Could you just start with the first 4 or 5 words so I can find that paragraph?
So as we can see, pendulous vanes have their uses and weaknesses. It's directly below a diagram of a pendulous vane gyroscope.
So as we can see, the pendulous vanes have their uses and weaknesses, but one task they cannot perform is the mythical correction for the non-existent curvature of the Earth. I agree with that.
Well, yeah, but it's okay saying that, but you've got to say why. If you don't say why, it's just circular reasoning, isn't it?
Well, is it not the explanation immediately afterwards? The simple principles of rigidity in space and precession provide all the knowledge capable of determining whether we are living on a spinning, hurtling, orbiting ball. The only conclusion that we can draw is the Earth is a stationary plane. The simple principles of rigidity in space.
If that was the only drift involved in gyroscope correction, but it does correct for mechanical drift. And he acknowledges that. If you read the article, he goes into how it works. It's a very good article, apart from this conclusion where he just goes off into the weeds. Yes, it's correct. Yeah, I understand that. Rigidity in space is the reason why you would expect to see apparent drift over curvature. But he doesn't explain why it cannot correct for mechanical drift and not apparent drift. Anyway, that's my question, Anthony. I hope you understand now.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, what I'll do, I'll read through this article because I've not seen this before. You've only just showed it, obviously. Let me read the context and what he's describing, and see if I'm probably tomorrow or the day after next time I catch up with you.
Yeah, please do, because I'm curious now.
No worries. All right. Cheers, pal.
See you.
Bye. Actually, Nath, what I'm going to do, I'm going to step off. I'm going to go and read this right now because I'm curious. I'm curious to what the issues are. So give me 10 minutes. I'll go on mute and I'll come back in a bit when I've had a chance to read it. When I'll go down somewhere quiet so I can read it.
No worries. Hopefully see you soon. It's okay by you guys? I'm going to do a quick link. Encourage people to join the show. So if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this show, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live. And most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. With the page that you are currently watching on mute, simply click on that link to join the show and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are only a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number 1, please do not swear. If you do, you will be ejected. However, you will be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. If you're currently watching the show live, please share it on social media. And once more, if you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say I've really enjoyed all these debates, Nathan. You do a good job with this, and everyone comes in, and sometimes it gets a little dicey, but I'm enjoying it, and I'm hooked. I listen to a lot of these, and I guess I just I'm not sure. You can know the shape of the Earth. It just that's just how I feel, but maybe I guess some ballers are just like, oh, I did the math. I did the math and I proved it. I did some math and I proved it. And I don't know. I just, have my doubts, like they say, it's just math is not like really proof of too much. It's very descriptive and it's great. It's obviously can, do a lot of important, it's an incredible tool, but I'm not sure that, you put down some stuff and you say, oh, works on the ball. So it's a ball. So I have my doubts.
What happens is, these ballers, like, they come in packs. What they do is they come and hog the panel. Like, there's usually about 10 of them who fill up the panel, and then they let one flat earther in, and it's like slaughter. Like all of them at the same time. They just attack. They slaughter the poor flat earther, right?
Right.
This is what happens. I mean, sometimes they don't even give him space to think. They're like, it's one after the other. It's like that's not fair. So sometimes it's like 9v1 8. How is that fair?
Yeah, and it's just I don't know. They just come off with such righteous indignation. It's like they're crying blasphemy. It's just like, look, we're not hurting anybody. It's like ideas are compelling on their own right. So if your ideas are so good, you can relax a little. Like, people will get it right. If I'm wrong, if we're all wrong here, it's like, well, it's not, it's not going to go anywhere. It's like things are compelling because they're good ideas. So, I figure, it'll sort itself out.
Can I have a bash at answering that for Multi-Tom
Well-
Tom? Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry?
So you said, how is that fair? And the simple answer to that is, it isn't fair. However, it's realistic. So I've been out, and I know from watching videos from Martin Leake here that he's done exactly the same at a funeral. He's published this. It was actually taken down by his family after agreeing to let him publish it. But it was 10 against 1, same exact scenario. They all ganged up on him with rhetoric. Now, they wouldn't listen to any of his explanations or give him chance to get them across because they ganged up on him. So what happens and I've watched these for 2 years on these debate shows of varying different types and styles, exactly what you've described. So when I've gone in, I've had my volume turned right down or been put on mute, and if I'm on the iPad, you can't tell. So you're just shouting red-faced into looking like a complete idiot, not being heard. And that's not realistic. In other words, when you're in a group with 10 people, chances are if you can hold your own and keep calm, you will eventually get them to listen to you. And some of the behaviours of both flat earthers, it's equal. Globe earthers and flat earthers, no difference. It seems that way to you because you're a flat earther, but trust me, it's 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. They're just as bad as each other. It's just people. And people will react that way. But you can't, for example, snipe somebody. You can't just end a conversation. That's not realistic in real life. You can't get rid of 10 people if you're in a crowd with 10 people that all believe in the globe. So that's just how it is. So I want to kind of get it as close to real as possible. And often that's how life is, literally, just like that.
Yeah, that's true. What you're saying, and another thing is, most flatties, what they won't go on the panel. I think they're scared to talk. Because they see these bowlers like they're putting up big words like parallax and angles and geometry, all that kind of crap. And when you do some research, you'll find that astronomy, for example, is it was part of philosophy. It was a branch of philosophy. When the Royal Society was set up in the UK in 1660, everybody had to learn philosophy first, and astronomy was just a branch of that discipline. So there weren't real scientists. I mean, when you really do the research, it's just like all guesses, and it's like fiction. It's like writing a novel. Yeah, I mean, it's like Newton's book. I forgot his name now. Principle blah blah. There's no evidence or proofs in it. It's just. I mean, you hear Newton's law, this, Newton's law, that. It's just he wrote down time. He didn't do any experiments. Like there's absolutely no way. It's just a philosophical book like all the others, like before him, like Pythagoras, Hipparchus, Eratosthenes. They always quote these guys, but the thing is, like, if you do the research, they haven't you don't find much written material from them. It's just they have been attributed certain things, and most of it is not true. It's just they've been put on a pedestal for no reason whatsoever. So you have to research these things. It's not good just when believing the video maker. You have to do your own research. I mean, like I was saying earlier, how they calculate the distance to Mars, other planets, the sun. It's all based on faulty data. So these guys come in and like they talk like they know what they're saying, but it's just gobbledygook bullshit.
I think it's interesting that they're always making a claim that these flat earthers are taking advantage of gullible people or something, and it's just like I don't really think people are that dumb, and outside of that, it's like I can't think of a more like gullible group of people than school children, and they get you with this idea when you're a school child and a little kid. These kids can't like think that about it. They can't come up with counter arguments, and so these ballers get so offended that you're bringing this up, and that you would even dare to doubt this question, that they're like, you're just a child, and they try to like put you back into that, like you need to go back and get into school. And I don't know, it's just ridiculous. The vitriol is just not doing any good for their case.
Yeah, I mean, another thing is like, when you go to school, you're taught a certain way. Like, you're taught that the Earth is a globe, and at that age, you don't question it. And I mean, they give us a hard time when we say, we've been indoctrinated like at an early age, but that's really true. You're taught the Earth is a globe, and you believe it, and when you come out of school or university, there's no need for you to question it, And I suppose like it's only when you meet like-minded people, that you really ponder, if what you've been taught is true. You question it. I mean, there are millions and millions of people, or I'm probably exaggerating, thousands of people are now coming out and saying, the world, as they see, it doesn't make any sense. There's no way that the oceans, for example, would form outside of a shape. Like they give us gravity as an excuse. And in my mind, that just doesn't work. There's no way gravity has ever been proven.
Yeah, the gravity thing, that's just another thing that they tell you, and you're like, oh, okay, whatever, I'll go on with my life. When you start thinking about it, it's just, I don't know, it doesn't really make a lot of sense. And I don't, if they could like conclusively prove it, they would be like, bam, here it is, but they can't do that. And I don't know, this whole topic is just becoming, it's just kind of getting out there a little bit. I see people talking about it, and I have some friends that like want to talk about it, but it's like, I think they're afraid to talk about it seriously. I see some people and like, it's just kind of a joke, and oh yeah, this guy wants to, shoot himself in a rocket and see the curve, or, and like everyone gets to, have a little chuckle about it. But like, I know a few of the people in this group are like, maybe they're afraid to actually address it seriously. And it's just like, I don't know, it's really becoming, it's becoming rather topical. We see the news picking it up, and I know Patricia had a Hustler that interview, and it's just one thing after another. It's like it's definitely becoming something that average people are actually more more they're actually coming in contact with it. Like my buddy posted on Facebook. He's like, ran into a guy at the bar, blah blah blah, and like, I mean, he had a bunch of bad stuff to say. It was really resentful, but and that's really common. But it's still true. There's like 100 to 1 out there. Like there's so many ballers, and they just hold their beliefs like comfort. They hold it so close to them, and to like even that, it's like it hurts. It brings them pain, and that's why then comes the anger. And it's just like I just wasn't raised to be indoctrinated like that. So when it come up, I'm just like, okay, let's look into this. I'm not afraid to look into this. It's not going to hurt me. And then you look at so much stuff, and you look at these ballers talk like, oh, this and that, but you can tell they haven't even looked at some of this stuff. They haven't looked at it, and it's just like it's like arguing with a wall.
Yeah, another thing, like there's like thousands of other people who are on the fence. They want to look into it, and they want to believe it's flat, but what's holding them back is they're scared of ridicule. They don't want to be called a dumbass. I mean, I personally, I've got nothing to lose, because everybody calls me dum dum. So I've got a name already. So I'm just scared. Do you know what I mean? They're scared of being called names and whatever. But you have to go with what your gut instinct tells you. To me, my senses tell me the Earth is flat and stationary, and the sky, the stars, and all the other luminaries move around you. So, it makes a lot of sense to me, rather than a ball spinning through space.
Yeah, I don't know. Like when I was a kid, this like my dad, he would tell me things, and like he'd be like, oh yeah, the sun's over your head, and it's it's real strong, and when it's over there, it's going through more atmosphere, and that's why it's not so strong, and it's 93 million miles away. And I was like, okay, I guess that makes sense, but like I still had my doubts. I always had my doubts as a kid. And as time went on, I just, I didn't think of it, and life goes on, and, you kind of like lead your life, but I don't know. And then it just kind of all came snapping back. And honestly, it really just makes me appreciate life more. It's like, it's like, I love my family, and like, it hasn't like hurt me in any way, like it hasn't made me like bitter, or I don't fight with people about it. Like nobody looks at me funny for bringing this up, because everyone in my life, they really like me, so they're not like gonna hold it against me, so it's not like interrupt. It's really just, I don't see it as like hurting anything.
I'll just introduce our new guest. We've been joined by Joshua. Hope I'm saying your name correctly. How you doing, Josh? Running across from another side of the room, I think. Hopefully we'll hear from Josh when he gets back to his microphone.
Yes, exactly right, Nathan. Hi.
Good to have you here.
Oh, good. You can hear me? I'm just on a headset and stuff here, listening in.
Yep, sound
Hi.
perfect.
Hi. Good to be here.
Hello, Josh. How you doing, man?
Yeah, good. I'm a converted flat earther. I got sucked into it, I'd say, about 90% of the way. And I made a few videos and I thought critically and logically about it all. And really, there's just no way it can be flat. And this whole thing is just ridiculous.
Sorry, you're a flat earther?
No, I really tried. I really tried really hard to consolidate how the stars could possibly work on a flat plane. And there is no way the stars can work on a flat plane.
Right. So a ball Earth spinning through space makes sense to you?
Yeah, the best sense, absolutely, so far.
Okay, well, there's nothing more I can say.
Can you describe how the stars work? Just for your information, I'm in Melbourne, Australia, so I'm in the very, very small minority of the people on the planet that actually live in the southern hemisphere and see every night how the stars work down here. And I know I could almost just randomly go, all of you guys are probably in the northern hemisphere, and that's just a random assumption. But tell me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. The stars go from east to west over your head, right? When you look up, you see the stars, and they're going around you, like from east to west, like the sun and the moon does. It's perfectly simple. There's nothing more than that. It's just they just go around you. That's the way it is.
But see, I think that's the thing. Is because you guys, I don't think you actually quite understand the problem. Is that when you guys look up, you see them spin one way, and when I look up, I see them spin another way.
Yeah, but I can address that. If Nathan, if you want to share my screen so that people can see it, particularly the guy that was just speaking. The issue that you have is that you're not realizing that you're looking the opposite way when you're looking the stars spinning. All the stars rise in the east and set in the west. What you're doing is looking south and claiming that they're spinning the opposite way. If you were to look the same direction as us, which is north, then they would be going rising in the east and setting in the west. And they can easily be explained on a flat plane. Now, we don't have Australia in the map because it's just not the way it's been drawn is not. We only put the big important countries on it. So we didn't put Australia on it, I'm afraid. I'm only joking. But what I'm saying is that if the stars rotated around us in either a flat or a spherical dome above us, whichever, and they were the two blades of a Chinook, it would make perfect sense that we would see it the way we see it, and we wouldn't be able to distinguish that we were on a ball or that we were on a flat plane. So when you say they go the opposite way, it's because you're facing south when you say that. If you face north, the stars still rise in the east and set in the west. And the shape and the movement of the stars bears no resemblance to the shape of the Earth, unless you get an observer in the southern hemisphere in, say, Argentina, and then you get yourself in the southern hemisphere. You both look south, due south, at the same time, and you see the same stars in the same place. I was trying to get this through to Jeremy yesterday. Jeremy couldn't get it. But the issue is these stars are supposed to be on your model very, 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 very far away. So looking due south, you would both see the same set of stars, because the curvature of the Earth would have virtually zero effect because you're both looking in the same portion of the sky. And that evidence doesn't exist as far as I can see. I haven't found any observers in the southern hemisphere doing this test. But that would be the only way to prove a ball Earth. If an observer in Argentina and yourself looked due south at the same time and saw the same stars, I don't believe it happens. I believe it moves round. Well, it can go two ways. It can be either demonstrated like that, or it can be demonstrated, or it can be explained by one set of stars with one rotation point, and you're seeing I'm just trying to remember what the word is. Not anti-crepuscular. What is it when I can't remember what it's called when the stars are that far away from you, but they seem to be bending away from you. Because I have a telescope, and in the telescope manual, it says that if you look north, you'll see concentric circles. If you look to the equator, you'll see straight lines. But what it says for the south is that when you look south, you don't see concentric circles. It looks like there's a circular rotation point below the horizon, and they're very they're not concentric circles. So it's very contradictory what evidence is out there with regard to the southern stars.
Sorry to interrupt. Correct me if I'm wrong, Josh. Did you not physically model that?
Look, to be fair, Nathan, I think out of all of the things that have come out of Flat Earth, my model is one of the closest things to actually representing what a southern star rotation could possibly be.
I would agree.
And I was quite proud of that. And I was a bit
it was
surprised that no one actually wanted to take it up and kind of run with it and kind of even entertain the idea.
I thought it was fantastic.
Thank you. It was a bit of a brainwave, and I had a brainwave, and because again, like I'm trying to say, I was hypnotized by the whole deal. As soon as this thing came up and I saw it on YouTube, and wow, what a conspiracy. This is unbelievable. But like one thing that I find that I don't think anyone seems to do is the first thing you should do when you're looking up a conspiracy theory is then type in the name of that conspiracy theory and type debunk after it. And you should watch all the debunks and all of like one thing that just turned your brain around a moment ago. All of a sudden, the next video, you might see a thing and just go, oh, yeah, right, okay, that's not a thing anymore. Strike that from the record. It seems like these flat earth people, you never look at the other side. You never look at how simple the sphere model all works out. And that's I think, a scary thing, which makes me think this whole thing is a psyop. It's all made up.
Yeah, Josh, I just want to add something to what Anthony said. There seems to be, I'm not denying there isn't a southern celestial pole, but what the ballers tend to do is like they say people in the south can observe it at the same time. That is impossible because of the time difference. Like when it's morning in Australia, it's a different time in like South Africa and South America because of the time difference, And I mean, I would guess that the reason we get two rotations like that is like because of the magnetic field, like the way it's what do you call it? I forgot the name of the shape now.
You said 8, so maybe.
But you know what I mean? Like, it's like if you can imagine a figure 8, right?
Well, that's the analemma.
Like analemma, yeah. I think that's related to the two poles as well.
I don't even really know where you're going with that. But I guess my point is that all of you flat earthers seem to say that, oh, you can't use the stars to represent the earth and stuff. Do you imagine how travel used to be before aeroplanes? It was like 1900 something or 1912 or something. I don't know, the Wright brothers, their thing and whatever. But for thousands of years before that, it was people just on the ground, always on the surface of the earth. And they had to figure out where they were. And to do that, they looked up. And the stars let them know where they were on Earth. And that's thousands of years of nautical navigation that has... none of you guys obviously are aware or even think of these guys back then. Imagine back then in a great big horrible fog on the ocean and you saw this one star that just appeared in the sky and all of a sudden you knew which way was home. That was how people found themselves on this planet, by navigating via the stars. And the stars. So why does
the Earth, Josh? Why does the Earth have to be a sphere for that to happen? I mean, they could easily do that on a flat Earth. They were navigating by the stars, yeah. And like I said earlier, all you have to do is just look up, and you can guide the ships by just looking up the stars. It doesn't have to be a sphere, does it?
And they thought the Earth was flat. When they was looking at them,
on your model, the stars only go one way. On the flat Earth model, if the dome is the stars or whatever, they only all go one direction. Whereas they
wait a minute, Josh. Look, all the ancients, right? they all believed in flat Earth. You know,
Right.
the Egyptians, Indians, Chinese, Mayans, Incan. Like they all used flat Earth cosmology. You know, they were traveling around believing the Earth to be flat. You know, it was only like I think is credited to like fantasizing about a ball Earth. You know, I mean, before that, even then, it wasn't accepted. You know, it was just a theory he had. You know,
But that's
it wasn't
fine. But don't you think computer games has gotten better? Don't you think CGI has gotten better over just our lifetimes? Things that we know, they've just gotten better, right? So why is it crazy to think that our understanding of the Earth and the shape of it all has just gotten better over time? Why would you cite scientists from thousands of years ago and ancient times when we've got modern day super accurate stuff?
CGI has certainly
How they
gotten better.
calculated the distance to Mars and to the Sun? Do you know how they did it? The science behind it.
They use the orbital periods of us and the way that we all rotate around the sun. The orbital periods using 1 AU as an astronomical unit. The distance from us to the sun.
What I suggest you do is read a book called King's Dethroned. Yeah, it's available online, free, and it's written by a physicist. You know, it tells you how they did it. Like, and there's also going to like .edu like university sites, and it's all documented. You know, you can do the research and how they did it, and they got it so wrong. You know, it's all guesswork.
I got a quick question concerning the southern rotation of the stars. They go the opposite way of the northern stars, right?
So when I look up in Melbourne, Australia, when I look up at the southern pole, right? Like there's not actually a star there, but it's the southern pole. There's a very obvious constellation called the Southern Cross. Very obvious. They put it on flags and all sorts of stuff. It's very obvious, and that rotates clockwise around a point. Right? I'm looking up and I see it rotating clockwise around a middle point.
And in the northern hemisphere, it rotates counterclockwise.
Exactly.
So my question is, how come the sun and moon don't do the same thing in the southern hemisphere? They move the same direction.
Is Riley still there?
If the stars do it, shouldn't the sun and moon do the same? You should observe the sun and moon doing the same thing, right?
Can I speak to Riley?
Not really. The sun and the moon are very close on the what's it called? The elliptic or the elliptical. They're very close around the equator, essentially. I think it's up to 23 degrees. Is it something? The Tropic of Capricorn and Cancer. I don't know all that sort of stuff. But the sun and moon travel very closely around essentially the equator of the Earth.
So what is the relation for the stars moving in the opposite direction as the north?
That we live on a ball. That it's a sphere.
No, but why would you? But the sun and moon should follow the same type of thing, right?
No, I just said that is because the sun and the moon they orbit or they appear to say go around us on a very elliptical. Not sure on the word there. But they're around our equator, essentially, right? The same way as the stars, if you're looking at them from the equator, they don't spin around poles or them. They kind of just go overhead, just like the sun and the moon.
Okay, Josh, can I ask you a question then? Since you say you've been there and back with this, you know, what do you have to say about NASA? You know, I mean, I feel like, you know, they're dishing up a lot of stuff, and, you know, I think that it's some of it's got to be fake. So, you know, what do you have to say about that?
I'm sorry, guys. Can I just jump in here for a second? I won't be long. Are you there, Riley?
Yeah, man, I'm here. Go on.
Okay. Do you remember my question?
Yeah. Why does he not explain why the apparent drift is not corrected for?
Yeah. Why can it correct for mechanical but not apparent drift? That's the question, right?
Yeah. And the answer is it doesn't discriminate between the two.
Okay. So you don't have an answer to the question?
Is that A4, Josh? What the fuck
Shut
is he
up.
doing?
Hey, please
No
wait.
swearing,
Hang on.
please.
He's presenting two different
Hey,
points of view.
hang on.
A4 is a flat earther, right?
Just wait, please. I won't be long.
It's sort of a joke. Look at this guy, hyena. Fucking
Pete.
joke.
Hey, I won't
Pete.
be long.
All
Just
right.
wait, please. Please be patient.
All right. Sorry about the language. Okay, yeah.
So you understand the question, Riley?
I think so, but I don't understand why you're asking it, because he does make it clear in the article that the pendulous vanes doesn't account for the drift.
He doesn't say anything about that. He says it can correct for mechanical drift, and in his conclusion, however, it cannot correct for apparent drift, to paraphrase the guy. And I don't understand why. He doesn't say why.
Well, it says, hang on, let me go back to it. It says, hang on, let me get back down to, I'm at the top of the article. Give me a sec while I get to the bottom.
I'll give you a sec, Anthony. All right, sorry, you have it there. Go on, you.
Shut up, Pete. Please wait.
He says, here we go. He says, it is still possible that gyros may experience precession and need to be erected. This is done with magnets, not gravity, rather than vent ports. Typically, electric attitude indicator gyros can be caged manually by a lever and cam mechanism to prevent rapid erection. But then he says, as we can see, pendulous vanes have their uses and weaknesses. But one task they cannot perform is the mythical correction for the non-existent curvature of the Earth.
Right. And that's my question. Why? Why can't it? If it can correct for mechanical drift, why can it not correct for apparent drift?
Because it isn't correct for curvature if there isn't any. That's our standpoint. And when I said this to you, you said it was a circular argument.
Into the premise.
This guy is saying, who's this guy? He's
shut up, Pete. Fuck a sec. Sorry, Nathan. For heaven's sake, Pete.
From this point on, any more swear words are you're gonna get booted immediately.
There's no apparent drift because there's no curvature. What don't you get about that? How can you measure something that isn't there?
You might as well just say the Earth is flat because the Earth is flat. That's what you're saying.
No. Well, prove movement of the Earth. Prove movement of the Earth, right?
It doesn't matter. I'm asking the question why he says that. And there's
let me change the variable. So we're not talking about a gyroscope. What your position is, if you put a ruler against a line and deduce that the line is not straight, then that would be a circular reason. And I would say if you put a ruler against a line and it's not straight.
No. Circular reasoning is where you introduce your conclusion in the premise. In other words, you're starting with your conclusion by saying.
No, but we're not doing that, are we?
Yes, you are. You said that it cannot correct for curvature because there is no curvature. That's the conclusion.
But the problem is,
that's illogical. That's a logical fallacy. Don't you understand that?
I understand your point, but I don't agree that we're doing a logical fallacy because we're not introducing the conclusion first.
If all you're going to say is it can't correct for curvature because there is none, that's circular reasoning by definition.
But how is it any different to saying that if you put a ruler against a line and deduce that the line is not straight? How can it be a circular reasoning if you deduce that the line is not straight because you put a ruler against it to realize?
I'll tell you what, Riley. Just do a Google search, read up on circular reasoning because you clearly don't understand it.
I'm just applying it to something other than a gyro and deducing that you're wrong based on what you're saying.
No, you're introducing your conclusion into the premise that by definition is circular reasoning, which is a logical fallacy.
No, we're not. We're saying that if it's not there,
then why can't we do it? Why can't
you guys you've gone over it, and I don't think you're going to get anywhere with it. And I'd like Josh to tell me why.
Riley's an ignoramus, and he doesn't understand what circular reasoning.
I'm gonna have to step in. Right,
that's great.
I agree with non-schooling, so I'm going to bring it back on point just for Josh. So I think the point that we got to with non-schooling was essentially saying we've got NASA. What's your feelings on that? And the only point I would add is that Josh put in a caveat earlier, which was to say that every technology has moved forward. And I was going to interrupt and say, with the exception of space travel, which has gone backwards.
Yeah, you guys carry on. I've said what I've got to say, and if somebody can answer my question without using a logical fallacy, I'll be interested to hear it. Carry on. Thank you for having me, Nathan.
It's been an absolute pleasure. You've been great, Huey.
Yeah, so I mean, Josh said he's been there and back, and I think that's a good thing, if good for him or whatever. And I'd really like to hear him tell me what he thinks of NASA, because it sure is interesting what they're dishing out.
Yeah, man, I'll put in my 2 cents on that. And just to clear it up, someone said before my A4. No, I've heard A4. That guy's a nightmare. Not representative of Australians, please don't think so. But the NASA thing, I think the first one really do. I think the first time those three guys, Buzz and Neil and Michael, they faked it. When they came back, they were talking out their ass. That was dodgy. But past then, they're doing all right. They're shooting stuff up there, and a lot of it is legit. It's a real thing. But the first stuff was fake enough to just give everyone a dodgy feeling, a queasy feeling for all time. And so it sort of sucks, but it's real.
That's all you got? I mean, I've just seen some really interesting stuff with the bubbles and the scuba divers, and I mean, that ISS footage where they're on the harnesses, like, clearly, and they're like CGI items and the layers, and it's just unbelievable the crap NASA's trying to put out there. So really, like, you've been there and back, but you got no point.
If I can share my screen, I got some more fakery. If y'all can let me share my screen.
Yeah, but it's always a maybe, right? You can't
pop it up.
prove it. It's just a maybe. The stars are a definite.
Yeah, let me ask Josh. I mean,
you tell me stars. Sorry, go ahead.
You look at the star pattern. Because you look at the star pattern, you deduce a globe Earth, right? So how come you don't entertain the possibility that we're dealing with a contoured barrier, which lights are being transmitted against? Have you considered that?
Well, no, there's no point. There's no point. Once something's super easy to understand, there's no point making it more complicated.
What do you mean it's super easy? Have you ever experienced movement then? Show me the proof of the movement of the Earth. If that's super easy to understand, tell me what the sun is.
What a weird question. I don't know what the sun is.
So you don't know what you're dealing with, but
every day,
you can claim that it's a simple deduction. It's a simple deduction. It's nonsense. And A4, what are you doing, man? Josh, A4. I mean, it's pretty clear that you're A4. What are you doing?
I'm going to consider that racist because you think all Australians sound alike.
Okay, man. I think you sound exactly like A4, and A4, of course, claims to be a flat Earth.
Right, Joshua is definitely not A4.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, you have to admit it sounds remarkably like, isn't it?
Yeah, right. And I sound like Gem Panda, according to the Americans.
And Freeminded's got really interesting footage up there. I'd like to see shared and addressed because, like I said, man, you said, oh, maybe, NASA's faking stuff. No, it's pretty clear that they are. And you say, oh, well, the stars are definite proof. And it's just like, yeah, that's assuming that all the explanations are good. But like, I'm just not sold. It's like, it's a bit of a mystery to me. So I'd really like you to address.
Saying you didn't know what the sun was. You heard him saying it doesn't matter.
You sound like to me that you're in the US, right? Like you sound like that you're in the US. So if proof of NASA, why don't you go to NASA? Why haven't you gone there and knocked on the door and just said you're frauds? Why? I don't get why all of the flat earthers in the northern hemisphere.
That is the stupidest thing you could have said, really, man.
to go and
yeah, right.
To get 1,000 people out of NASA.
They just let people in the door, like, oh yeah, come on in and tell us. Yeah, dude, no,
that's
you can't just go and tell them that.
You know them.
That's not how it works. Okay, you know that.
Entertainment. That's how they can do all this stuff legally. It's all entertainment.
So what's your next step then? If you're not going to protest NASA, what's your big plan?
I don't need a big plan, dude. I'm asking you, how you reconcile it, and you can't. And I don't know. I thought we were gonna watch Freeminded, point a few of these like CGI things going on because
I can show it again.
It's pretty compelling.
I can show it again.
The stars prove the shape of the Earth.
Nonsense.
That's all you need to know.
And Nathan, how do you know for definite that Josh isn't A4, if I may ask?
God's sake, really?
Yes, really, Nathan. I'm asking you a question. Have you seen him?
No, I haven't seen him, but I've listened to the two different people, and they don't sound the same. They're not the same people. They've got similar accents.
But have different names, so they're not the same people, even though they sound exactly the same, and you can vouch.
Their demeanor, everything about them is totally
Do I sound
different.
like I'm talking like A4? Do I sound like I'm going on all the time and just making shit up and just saying things and going, word and on and on and on? Do I sound like that when
a man can change his character, right? If you're
not
playing
a bad impression.
You're going to have a different tone anyway. Just pointing out that you don't know either, Nathan.
I don't know why I'm
you're just going
interjecting,
for
Pete.
God's
Fine.
sake.
This is real life. Go for it. Accuse me of being A4. I'll shut up.
No actors. Yeah, it is real life. Flat Earth, right? No one can play a role at all, right, Nathan? We know what role you're playing.
I don't think it's important right now.
No, it's true,
I'm
but
going
you
to say,
probably don't
Pete,
know.
that
You
if
probably
you
don't
haven't
know.
actually
Hang on.
seen my
Hang
video,
on. You
you
probably
haven't
don't
seen
know
some good flattering
A4.
threesomes.
You probably don't know A4 non-school, so that's the only point I'm making.
Well, I've seen him chatting. I don't know any of you guys, so
Yeah.
this is like the first time I got in here.
Is this the first time that Pete's been on this chat?
No, it's not. No.
Okay.
Hey, Riley, have you seen this, Riley?
No, go on. Let's have a look.
The ball bounces off the green screen, basically.
Really?
If you can see it, yeah.
Play it again.
It?
Play it again, because I think when I spoke over you, I think it flicked off.
Can y'all see my screen?
Yeah, I'm watching.
All right.
Just while this is playing, sorry to interrupt, Anthony. I just want to ask Josh a quick question. Once at some stage, is it possible that I can play your video even if it's after you've gone?
Yeah, again, sure, Nathan, go ahead. And I actually thank you so much for your ongoing support about that video, and just talking to you right now and you agreeing that it was a good idea. That fills me with happiness. I felt that it went so underlooked through.
Wow,
through
seems like your feelings were hurt or something. You know, maybe
seems like they're on the same thing or something, right?
Jump on it or something. I don't know.
Ridiculous
I just think
notion
that,
to say that someone sounds like someone else and they could be acting a part, right?
There's tons of that NASA stuff. Like, there's so much crap NASA puts out, and it's total crap. And it's just something, that like it really pops the ball for me, because it shouldn't be necessary for NASA to be putting out such crap.
But why do you think they're putting it out non-school? You don't get to see these things on purpose. You think we don't get to see these errors on purpose? You think the editing floor doesn't notice these things, especially with all the scrutiny on NASA, and say, hang on, you can see it bouncing off the green screen here, so you better cut that out or something. No, we get to see these for a different reason, and that's the kind of level we have to think. NASA were always made to be thrown under the bus. So if you just think, well, look at us, we're after picking out NASA on some of their things clearly obvious, well then they're still ahead of you, right? They're still ahead of you because you haven't thought of it.
How do you think the stars work? How do you think people have been navigating by the stars for thousands of years? How do you think that works?
They're rotating luminaries against a contoured barrier. Let me just say one thing and I'll go then, right? There's only one thing more obnoxious than what I'm going to say next. Australia and New Zealand is the opposite point of the globe, as we're told from me, right? Now, if someone was to ask me to point to Australia, if I was a globe head, I'd have to point directly at my feet. That is so obnoxious. But there's only one thing more obnoxious than that for me. That's Lord Stephen Christ's model, and I'd have to point directly above my head to get to Australia. Nonsense, bullshit. Define what the stars are, define what the sun is, define what the luminaries are, define what the contour of the barrier is, and then you'll have your answer, Josh. A4. Thank you very much. I'll see you later.
Bye.
I mean, can somebody explain this? That shit is crazy.
If you're not seeing free-minded screen, just click
all
on
of that to be
locally.
secondary, though. All of that NASA stuff is secondary just to the fact that the stars tell us that it's a sphere. Like, there is a little bit of conspiracy in the world. It's all a bit rough, right? But the stars, just by looking up, it's a sphere.
Yeah, if you say so, man. I just, if it was really what they said it was, they wouldn't need to be dishing out such fakery. It's just, why would they do that? It's just, I can't get over that one. And until a Glober gives me a good justification for what's up with NASA, it's just like, it's all a big mystery to me. So, like, yeah, I can't explain the stars, but the world is mysterious. There's doubt. I have doubt, and it's just like, I don't have answers, and I'm not about to come around saying I have answers.
And look, I think that's cool. You know what? I'll take that. For me, my problem is when flat earthers, they don't actually understand. They don't even understand that the star thing is a big problem. It's a very big problem. And some people just try and brush it away. But it's a really big problem. And to be a flat earther, you actually have to understand and then ignore that problem.
But
So,
did-
Josh,
I mean,
is that the
did-
only sticking point? The stars, is that the only sticking point for you?
Well, no, there's heaps of things. I think the stars is the easiest, most perfectly understandable. Everyone can see them all the time. Answer. That's the easiest one.
What's next? What's
And
next?
I don't know why you chuckle then.
What's after the stars? Okay, what's next? Because that, lack of curvature. The ballers always
Right.
just throw that out and have their ways of explaining that. So like,
That's
I
the
got
very-
That's
might have
very next, after I put some videos up trying to understand the stars, I put some videos up trying to understand the horizon rises to eye level plane. And the idea that, if it was flat, then the horizon would keep rising. But if it was a ball, it would mean the horizon drops. And so I got my phone and I got an app on my phone to be able to do like the angular using the accelerometers in the phone, and took photos out of an airplane window as it was taking off and in the sky and landing. And of course the horizon drops. The horizon drops by a lot. The horizon never rises to eye level. And that's a crazy flat earth claim that is just really, really, really untrue. And I'll say that's step 2 in my process.
No, Josh, right? When have you ever flown before on an airplane? I'm not being funny. Just an honest question. Have you ever flown on an airplane like 35,000 feet?
Not sure if it was my accent or how fast I'm talking, but I just said that. I took my phone out of an airplane window at 35,000 feet, taking photos of the horizon to find that it did not rise to eye level.
Okay. If the Earth was spherical, when you rise up, it should drop drastically. Like if you can imagine a basketball holding in your hand and visualize like moving away from that ball, you see the you see it, you see it dropping drastically if it's a ball, but it doesn't. As far as the eye can see, like it's always level. It doesn't drop. I mean, I don't know what app you were using.
Do you really, really believe that holding a basketball up to your eye and moving it back and forth is an honest comparison of how big the Earth is?
Well, I mean, it should. You should be able to notice it, but you don't notice it, do you? You never see a drop. You should be able to detect some curvature.
But why do you think that?
35,000.
Like, why do you just designate? Like, if all of a sudden, like I just said, the Earth, it's 40,000 miles wide or something. Like, why would you've got no concept on how big this planet is. So why would you just think you should be able to see something?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, if it's a sphere, then as you rise up, you should be able to notice it, but you don't. Even
but that's what I'm saying. That I think you notice it.
So we have about 30 minutes left on this broadcast. So I'm going to run through my links and then pass you back in a moment. If you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live. And if you would like to join the debate, there is a link in the info box below this video. With the page that you are currently watching on mute, simply click on that link to join the debate and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are only a couple of rules. Number 1, please do not swear. If you do, you will be ejected. Number 2, if you are ejected, you will be warmly welcomed back on the next show. Please don't try to rejoin using sock accounts. If you've not done so already, please share the show if you are in the live stream currently. And once more, if you are new to this channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate.
Ones that go up and down, and you see the curve, and then it's flat, then it's concave.
Well, that's
Seen
with the
all that
with the
stuff.
GoPro, of course. But we're talking without the GoPro. None of them show curvature.
But have you ever seen any of those videos with actual data and information, like down the left in a little column, all the information about how high it is, its altitude, its angle, its
Yeah,
declination, where
Yes,
it's
they
facing?
have that. They have
yeah.
them. I'm surprised you haven't seen them. Yeah, it says you can watch the whole thing. It rises from the ground. It's like a 2-hour movie, rise from the bottom. Now, if you want to say it's edited left to right and all that, like I'm not gonna argue against that, but it definitely rises over a long period of time, and the I mean, maybe they CGI and all that info. I don't know. It's fine. I'm not saying it's impossible for that stuff to be, faked or just dishonest or whatever, but it's sure some of it sure looks interesting. I'll put it that way.
All right.
Have any of you guys actually done this experiment? Just like what I'm saying, is that you get an app on your phone, and you can basically, like, when you hold it up, it's a little digital display on it, and it tells you if you're holding it straight or not. It tells you if you're holding it left, right, straight, up, down, straight, and back and forth straight. This tells you all the dimensions, so you know
Yeah,
when
and
you're
you have
holding
to
it.
calibrate that.
Whatever.
Yeah, and you have to calibrate it right.
Well, but sure, but it works. It works on the ground. You do it on the ground, and then you get into a plane, and it's about 3 degrees, right? So when you're in a plane at cruising altitude, that's 35,000 feet, whatever it is, it's about 3 degrees that the horizon is away from the actual level, and that matches up with a sphere world. And like I'm saying, with the stars and that there's two pretty good proofs for a sphere, and I've
How about
really yet to hear one from you guys.
how about the countless pictures of us seeing things in the distance that are supposed to be covered up by curvature?
Well, of course, as we know, that's like just a fun fact about nature, is that light bends, and sometimes it bends in inexplicable ways, just via heat pockets and cold pockets and all sorts of things.
So we
Sometimes
live in
you
a
see
huge funny
weird,
house. We
crazy
live in a huge
stuff
funny
in the
house.
sky.
We live in a huge funny house where things just
Yeah, pretty much. There's all sorts of crazy things that just happen via nature. Life could be here via a crazy, funny thing that happened via nature. We should be thankful that crazy stuff happens.
Well,
How come-
from
how come-
everything you've said, Josh, like it could also be flat. You haven't convinced me that it could be a sphere.
I don't think you understand the star problem. I just don't think you get it. But in the
We
north,
talked
you
about it.
guys look up and you see the stars rotate one way, and I look
Josh,
up and I see them
that's
rotate
fine.
another way.
We're
Josh,
past that.
how-
We're talking about
how come the infinite power of the infinite vacuum of space doesn't suck the atmosphere off the Earth?
That's not how it works. You guys, like, I think
How does it
Dell
work?
keeps saying all that stuff. It works because there's the planet, and as you get further away from the planet, it just gets less. There's less stuff further from the center of the planet. That's how it works.
But,
And
but
then at some
space is an
point,
infinite
it gets
vacuum, right?
But it's like a gradient. You ever been on Photoshop and you just like make a gradient and it starts black and it ends up white, but there's a gradient of gray between it? That's what's happening. There's no just like blanket cutoff point.
Could you show an experiment of that?
I've heard that
Can you show that
all my life.
show an experiment where that happens, where a vacuum is
course,
next to a non-vacuum without any kind of
you can
barrier
do
in
it.
between them?
You can do it on a mountain. You can start breathing air at sea level. And then
Really?
you can rise up to a very, very high mountain around you, and you'll notice it is harder to breathe. That's because there's less air up there. That's it.
No.
That's as simple as that is.
I'm talking about an experiment where a vacuum and a non-vacuum environment is right next to each other without a physical barrier in between them.
No, I'm pretty sure I just said that. That's not how it works. It's a gradient. It gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner, and then there's none. That's how it
But
works.
there's no way to prove that except like believing what NASA and what scientists tell us about what's going on up there. There's no
Exactly.
there's no
By
experiment on Earth
extrapolation.
we can do that
But
proves
just
that.
like what I said, if you're at the bottom of a mountain, you're breathing this much. If you do a workout, you breathe that much. You go halfway up the mountain, do the same workout. It's much, much harder. You've got to take
It's all
more air.
theoretical science.
Yeah, obviously
No.
there's less air up there, but we're talking
And by
about
extrapolation, you can know that the air gets thinner and thinner and thinner as you rise higher and higher and higher. That's why Ethiopians and stuff are really good at marathons. Surely you know all this stuff. It's because they're used to like breathing that high altitude air, and all of a sudden you put these guys down at lower altitudes and they're just getting pumped full of oxygen and they love it and they're killing us all. You must know this stuff.
I mean, surely there's an experiment that illustrates this. There should be some kind of experiment that can illustrate this. That's all I'm saying. I would like to see
what?
it.
Devise it. Tell me right now. What would be the experiment that would prove it for you?
That's
It
what
would
he's
be
asking you.
a vacuum, and a positively charged non-vacuum, and they're together. They're next to each other without any physical barrier in between them. That's what I like to see.
Can we really conceptualize this? So you're basically talking about like a vacuum which is set to suck and a vacuum that's set to blow and plugging them together and hitting on, and you're curious about what's going to happen.
No, Josh, the vacuum is supposed to be more powerful, right? So in theory, the vacuum should
that's just not true.
The
The vacuum is nothing. It's not more powerful. It's nothing. It's the absence of power. It's tiny sparse molecules, like distance. It's weird. It's hard to wrap your head around.
You seem real certain
a
about
vacuum.
space, and that's fine. You know, I don't think it really does a whole lot to, down here to argue about what's going on in space, because like I said, like it's NASA and astrophysicists. That's what we have for what's going on up there.
Yeah, it comes down to if you believe them
every
or
single
not.
person looking at the
They don't have any
stars every single night.
And it's the ISS, which is clearly fake. Why would they fake that? And I don't, there's no curvature. There's no detectable curvature down here on the ground. When you look at the math, the 8 inches per mile squared. Like you can say it's just funny business, just sort of shows up and happens. But that's not a good answer. That's like the kind of answer you would ridicule a flat earther for having.
I'm sorry, I'm not quite sure what you just said then. But I don't understand why you don't look up. Like looking up has been fine for thousands of years for every single person to find themselves where they are on the planet. Like you guys keep talking about like ancient beliefs and ancient this, that, whatever. For thousands of years, people have just been finding where they are via the stars.
Yeah,
and
using flat
all of a sudden now,
cosmology.
2017. All you guys are just going, nah, didn't happen. Stars didn't happen. Stars, you can't find out where you are on the planet. Stars,
yeah, Josh, they all believed the Earth was flat.
We can't figure out where they are. Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
It's only recently.
Whatever about the stars. There's other stuff we can talk about. You keep bringing it back to the stars. That's fine. You can believe that.
I'll take it for what it's worth. You guys.
Look, I'll take it for what it's worth, and then the second thing you said was, what was it again?
Horizon rising to eye level. And my question just right now is, have you guys ever done that experiment? Have you guys all got an app on your phone that tells you where the horizon is and eye level and stuff? You all must have done it.
I'm flying in 2 days. I'm flying in 2 days.
Unless you have done at least this.
Yeah, I'm gonna fly in 2 days, so I'm really curious to check it out. So that's fine. I'll see how far the horizon goes down. All right, that's great. Okay,
so
can you talk about
what sort of phone you got? Are you Samsung or Apple guy?
This doesn't matter, man. Just can we talk about something else?
I was just gonna tell you a good app to get, man, so you can try and have a look. That's all.
I can find an app that does what you're talking about. I've seen them. I've seen videos on it. Okay, and you have to calibrate those things. You have to calibrate them right. So anyway, that's a good point. I'm gonna try that experiment.
Sweet, man. And so, but hypothesis, right? The thing that you're testing is that the horizon rises to eye level. That's what you're testing for that.
Yeah, I get that. I understand.
It should fall. Yeah, it should fall as you go up.
That's right. And you also understand that eye level means that it's like horizontal to your eye, basically. I don't know, that sounds a bit weird, but it's not where you're looking. You can't judge it where your eye level is.
Okay.
It has to be at your altitude, looking straight out.
That's great, man.
Josh.
I hear you. Okay.
What
Can
you're
we get a
saying
number
is-
3 out of you? I like what you have to say, man. I'm curious. I really am on the fence here. I find all this fascinating. So I really want to hear. Do you have a number 3 for me here? Because I'm curious. You got my ear.
Well, look, number 3 is simply just Himawari 8 because it's a Japanese satellite. It's got nothing to do with NASA, got nothing to do with anything. And I'm lucky because Himawari 8, like taking photos of Japan, Australia just happens to be on that side of the Earth. So when they're taking photos of Japan, they're taking photos of Australia. So I get a photo of my country from space every 10 minutes. And
okay, fine. Okay, so those are your 3 points. And my first point was NASA, and you wanted to throw that out and not even count it. My second point was the curvature. And you say, well, these photos that are showing us really far, it's some bendy light, it's some phenomena. The world does weird things, and we get weird glimpses at other times. That's once again that's a kind of a funny answer. And now your third is satellites, which I mean, I'm not saying they don't fly stuff around up there, but like they're not telling us what's really going on with these satellites, because it just doesn't seem possible to me that these satellites are up in these conditions and surviving. And then I want to say on the satellites, why did I see in the other debate a video of a satellite crashed and it had a balloon attached?
Yeah,
Why would a satellite need a balloon? Like this is ridiculous. They're not telling us like what's really going on with the stuff they're flying up there. So you want to say Himawari 8, and I was just like, oh my God, like man, I was hoping you'd have something a little better. Like I like your stars, and I like the fall of the drop of the horizon. I like that stuff, man. But the Himawari 8, man, I'm not even saying that right, but like, boy, that's just more NASA fakery, that's more space agency crap.
I just want to add, right? I don't know if Josh is aware, like the earliest footages of from Himawari 8, right? When they showed the time lapse, the clouds didn't morph, they didn't actually move. It stayed in one place hour after hour after hour. They showed like 12, 14 hours worth of footage, like time lapse. And the clouds were still the same. They didn't move.
You'll never see any event happening on Earth with these so-called satellite footages. You'll never see nothing that's real time actually happening. You see what I'm saying? I would like for them, like, one time maybe somebody has a spotlight shining up, or a real time event happening, a plane flying, something like that.
No, I'm totally with you on that. I've thought the same thing. I do like concert lighting and that sort of stuff for a job, and I've thought how it would be like a thing, just proof once and for all. If you made a whole lighting rig, just like instead of up on the stage, just put it on the floor and just pointed a whole heap of strobes up to the sky. If you could somehow have just like be hitting that button and making all the strobes flash, 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 and if the ISS could see that, maybe in the daytime or maybe whatever on a flyover, like that would be pretty good proof that the ISS is real. Would you agree?
Yeah. Yes, I would. Yeah, I would like to see that.
Yeah.
It's kind of strange that they haven't done that.
But yeah. I've even thought maybe like you should have been able to see certain maybe forest fires or something somewhere. But
planes flying, different just real time stuff happening.
I think a plane might seem like a little bit too far away. I think it'd have to be like a very a big event.
They should be able to like zoom in. I mean, I'm talking about the satellite, not just the ISS, the satellites. If they could just zoom in and just catch different stuff. It should be like on live TV. You zoom in and you can wave and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't see why they wouldn't do that. That'd be pretty cool if they could, or if they would.
Also, going back to the ISS, the way they flip, that's not. I don't think that's how you flip in zero gravity. Like if you look at the Vomit comet, it's completely different to the way they do it on the ISS. It's obvious. It's so obvious they're using wires, because if you compare the footage from the ISS to the Vomit comet, two completely different sets of motions. I don't know if you If you've noticed that.
Well, yeah, of course, but we know the vomit comet only lasts moments, right? We know like there was that great film clip from that OK Go band, and they had to do it all in 30-second moments. We know that the vomit comet can't go for that long, and we've obviously seen longer clips of zero G-ness in the ISS clips.
Also, how when the astronauts are on there and they're kind of tilted sideways, their head always kind of tilts up. You see what I'm saying? Because your body automatically does that. But if you was in space, your head wouldn't know what is up and down. Are you following what I'm saying?
Yeah. Also, Josh,
go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, just compare the hair on the woman, like compare again with the ISS and the vomit comet. It doesn't stick out. Like I understand what you're saying about 30 seconds of the plane dipping, but the hair doesn't behave the way.
Nah.
It doesn't look like it's been like they're using hairspray on the vomit comet. It should be more ISS,
it's more like water. It should be more like she's like they're in water, kind of. You know what I'm saying? Like it's real flowing, not just.
Yeah, it should be floating, isn't it? It should be floating. Like free space floating. It doesn't just sticks up like they've been using hairspray.
Just to let you guys know, there's about 15 minutes left on this stream, just so you know.
But maybe on that day she just used hairspray. She knew she was on TV. She did her hair. Oh my God, a woman doing her hair.
No, it's just sticking straight up. Like it's not like she did a certain kind of hairstyle or something. It's just sticking straight up.
I just think you guys are looking in the wrong direction. It's okay to look at other conspiracies, but you shouldn't mix it in with flat Earth because the Earth isn't flat.
I mean, you got to admit that there's some interesting.
The Earth is round, but you just got to get over that first hurdle.
I mean, it's too late for me because it's too many discrepancies, and it's all adding up to some bullshit. So I have to just keep looking into it. I'm not gonna say it's flat, but I know the globe it doesn't seem real at all. It doesn't make sense.
Well, to me, a ball Earth is illogical.
Say what?
To me, the ball Earth is illogical because
Yep.
How the water behaves.
And
look, it's too many things.
From my perspective, I got to agree with that. Okay, it seems insanely ridiculous that we could even be here talking about this. It seems insane that the sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, yet exactly 400 times further away. It seems insane that 4-point-something billion years ago, a planet smashed into the Earth, which created the moon, which started creating tides, which basically somehow created the tidal wave world that just smushed everything into life. It all seems ridiculous.
And how do we not feel the Earth moving? I mean, you got to go to something even basic like that. How do we not even feel it?
Sorry, but that's easy. You don't feel motion, you feel acceleration. You know that, right?
Are we going? We're not going the same speed. We can't.
No. Speed and acceleration are different.
But we're changing speeds, right? We have to be because we're traveling on
that's what acceleration is. Acceleration is a change in speed, whereas speed is speed.
Well, if you change speed, then you're decelerating and accelerating, right?
Yes, but you're not changing speed. You're not changing speed unless you're moving.
How's that possible when we're supposed to be traveling on an elliptic path? You see what I'm saying? We're on an elliptic path. It has to change speeds.
Again,
also,
they're so tiny.
Also, the Earth is spinning at different speeds at the equator and at the poles. There's a difference, isn't there?
You're all so tiny. You're tiny little specks on this massive big bit of ball of dirt, and you're essentially that big ball of dirt. You get that, right? Like you're not really you, like a human walking around. You are attached to this big rock. That's why when you jump, you just go blur back to the ground straight away. You wouldn't even maintain 1 second in the air. Blur back on the ground. We are all attached to this big spinning rock. That's why we don't feel any acceleration.
Well, how do you know it's
Josh,
spinning?
So
Been
you got
joined
any
by
think I-
Ebbing Tide. Can I
Gravity?
just say a quick hello to Ebbing Tide? Pleased to have you here.
Yeah, hi, Nathan. I was just asking, how do you know it's spinning?
Good to have you here.
Thank
Good
you.
question. Good question.
Well, there's a lot of things spinning. Something's spinning. Every night we look up at the stars, and the stars are moving. So either they are or we are.
Something is spinning.
Yeah, but what's our observation? Is the observation that we're spinning, or is the observation that the stars are moving? What's the actual observation?
Well, the observation is just that the stars are moving.
Yes. So
Every-
then,
No.
why would we believe other than that?
Because night by night, the stars keep changing. And we've
No, they
learned
don't.
over looking up
No,
that
they
over
don't,
365 days, the stars
It's the
join
same
up
paradox.
and then the same.
It's the same stars,
They
night
look
after
2D.
night.
Matter of fact, they look 2D.
No, that's not true. If you think that, then you're wrong. It's not the same stars night after night.
Well, I go and capture it on the camera every night. And when I was a kid, my mother taught me that what was the saucepan, what was this, what was that. And every night I'm looking at the same constellation.
Well, sure,
Yeah,
but
Josh,
do you think they're in
that's
the
a
same
rubbish claim.
position?
That's a rubbish claim,
Sorry?
Josh, because if the Earth is on an elliptical orbit, right, different stars every night, yeah, but it doesn't happen, mate. You know, we see the same
no
stars
one
every
said-
single night.
No one said different stars every night. That
Yeah, we
was a crazy, silly thing to say. No one ever said that. The stars are in a slightly different position every
But
night.
you can see them.
Every time
But
the
you can-
world turns around, you see
But
the
you can see
stars
them.
in a slightly different position.
Yeah, but if we were spinning around
I'm
in
sorry,
space,
you say
going
can you see the
as
stars?
fast
Yes,
as
of
we
course you
are,
can see the stars. That's my whole
But why-
argument for the Earth being a sphere is that we can all observe the stars.
yeah,
If
but
you're-
why would we end
Josh.
up in the same spot every night, Josh? Why would we end up in the same spot every night to see the same stars as if we were spinning around, you know, like they tell us we are and what have you, and yet the same stars, they might be slightly different, but they're
We
there
don't-
every night.
Every
you-
6
okay,
months,
so-
every 6 months, we're like on the opposite side of the sun. So we should
That's
see.
right. That's why we see different stars. Like you
No, we
would
don't.
have
You
to be.
can see that
Okay.
if you're in North
Now,
We
America,
don't see different
the Big
stars.
Dipper.
We see the same
the Big
stars
Dipper
day in,
all
day
year
out.
round.
We've been seeing them for thousands of years.
Now
Yeah,
dig
same
this.
stars, Josh.
If you stood still right now and looked up at the stars right now, it would take 365 days until you saw those stars in the exact same spot again.
That's
Do
incorrect.
you get that?
Oh yeah. Okay, in the exact same spot, but you can see them. Like if you're in North America, you can see the Big Dipper all year round. It's in a different position, but you can see it. It spins around Polaris, and you can see it all year round.
So you don't get that. That doesn't matter. It's the stars that are like in line with the sun. It's the stars that are on the equatorial plane. They're the ones that change. And if you're so high up in the north and you don't see any of those stars, then sure, you might get the same stars round and round all year. I don't actually really think there's a place like that. I'm pretty sure it changes everywhere. But the stars change every night. And that's why they needed to like delineate a line and figure out the time system and figure out all that so people could learn where they were on the planet. Because not only the stars tell you where they are, but you have to also know exactly what time it is. That's how you locate yourselves. That's how maritime people have been doing it for years. And that's what none of you flat earthers are willing to admit.
Yeah,
That's rubbish, Josh. What about Polaris? What about Polaris?
What do you mean? What about Polaris? That's a star it's very, very, very close to the northern equatorial celestial pole.
George, you're reaching, mate.
That's it.
You've got no
That's
answers. You're reaching.
Hang on, how am I reaching? Did I not just answer?
Just let him answer.
Polaris is a star that's very, very close to the northern celestial pole. So close, in fact, that the eye probably couldn't tell the difference.
How about the star trails? When you see the star trails where it goes around in a circle, when only the slowest. Let me talk now. Only the slowest motion of the Earth is represented. It should be. You only see the supposed rotation of the Earth, but you don't see the 60,000 miles we're going around the sun. You don't see the 500,000 miles our solar system is moving. That's not represented in the what you see in the star trails. You only see the slowest motion.
Well, but that's just like we're in a great big bowl of soup, right? Like when you're spinning a bowl of soup, all the soup around the outside, it's all kind of moving at the same speed, right? Like it's all going together. It's not, there aren't little bits that are just left behind and all the other bits are rushing past it. It's all just stirring at the same time. That whole bowl
of soup is moving though, faster.
Yeah, totally. And that's what's happening in the universe. Everything's in some big movement. But we are so tiny.
But it's not represented. So tiny. The universe is a bowl? The universe is a bowl now?
No, I never said that. No one knows what the universe is, man. Yeah, fine. I don't think what he's talking about.
See, if my observation is that I'm stationary, and someone else says to me, "No, you're spinning around at 1,000 miles per hour." Do I take what's been said to me that I'm spinning around at 1,000 miles per hour, or do I say no? I feel stationary. See, if you take on beliefs, you can take on anything. You could be told anything, and you could be led anywhere. If you have no. It's almost like you're insecure with your own observation. So you're looking for somebody else to give you the answers. You tell me what's happening in my life. You tell me if I'm spinning or not. You tell me where I'm living. You tell me. Why can't we do it ourselves?
We have about 1 minute left, just so you guys know.
All that much.
Got about 60
You're
seconds.
really not observing all that much. You're not. Sorry, Matthew.
Yeah, but that's really all that counts. That's better than believing 1,000 things is to be secure.
You haven't tracked the stars, have you? You haven't tracked Mars, have you? Like you haven't looked up at Mars every night and located its position. You haven't done that, have you?
What's that got to do? What's that got to do with what I asked?
There's this thing called retrograde motion, where some things in the sky, even though everything should be going with the spin of the Earth, some things every now and then appear to be going backwards. That's called retrograde motion. And that doesn't make any sense.
They're
everything else
stars.
is going one way.
They're not planets, they're wandering stars.
I just said retrograde motion. I just said that things sometimes in the sky go backwards. Call them wandering stars, call them planets. It's fine. And when you map that out,
wandering stars.
When you get like spirograph patterns, like weird spirograph things, and like, oh, that's doing that, and what's happening there, and whatever. But that was in like a geocentric sort of system. You get all these weird spirograph patterns and stuff, and I guess it's quite pretty. But if you just go, oh, hey, let's put the sun in the middle, and let's make everything go about the sun, all of a sudden everything is just a circle. It's just a circle that starts in the middle and goes out, and everything's in orbit around the sun, and it was one of those moments where people just slapped themselves in the forehead and went, oh my, whoa, that is just beautiful and simple and makes so much sense. And that's where we are. And that's where we are.
Josh,
and with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a massive, huge, enormous thank you to our live audience for tuning into this debate. Big shout out to Josh for fending off 5 or 6 flat earthers pretty much single-handedly, and a A massive thank you also to all of the rest of the panel for making this debate possible. Be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.